Come to Providence Place, owned by the Sisters of Providence for retirees looking for an ideal rental setting to continue their active, independent lifestyles. We offer bright 1- and 2-bedroom apartments, a magnificent chapel with daily mass, restaurant-style dining, wellness and entertainment programs, all with a friendly community spirit on beautiful grounds. Call for a tour, 413-534-9700.
Coming up on this edition of Reel to Reel, we'll continue our series of reports exploring the role of deacons in the Catholic Church.
I'm Steve Kiltonick in Ossining, New York, home of the Marino brothers. I'll have the story of Father Vincent Capodanno, a Vietnam War chaplain and Medal of Honor recipient whose cause for sainthood is being considered.
And in this week's installment of our pilgrimage to Eastern Europe, we'll visit the Divine Mercy Shrine. These stories and more are just ahead on this edition of Reel to Reel. Hello and welcome to Reel on this Veterans Day weekend. Over these days, many will visit cemeteries to remember our departed men and women who have served our nation. These are sacred grounds, and in Pittsfield, an effort is underway to raise funds for the restoration of St. Joseph Cemetery. As Carolee McGrath reports, now the entire Catholic community is working together to restore this beloved place.
Parishioners of St. Charles in Pittsfield gathered for the 4 p.m. Mass Saturday, November 3rd. They gathered to celebrate their faith and to celebrate the 125th anniversary of the parish built by Irish immigrants. Monsignor Michael Shoshanovic, the administrator of the parish, concelebrated the Mass with Bishop Emeritus Timothy McDonnell and Father Peter Gregory, Pastor Emeritus of St. Charles.
It's a gorgeous building.
Oh, it really is. Beautiful organ, and as beautiful as the church is, the people are too.
The parish is now taking part in a capital campaign to raise money to pay for restoration work at St. Joseph Cemetery on Peck's Road in Pittsfield. The campaign is called Joining Together to Honor Our Past and Continue Our Legacy.
Our goal is to hopefully raise $1.2 million to correct some of the problems at the cemetery. We have a lot of underground water problems, so we have to lower catch basins, and before we can do any other work, that has to be corrected first.
Monsignor Shoshanovic, who is also the pastor of St. Joseph Parish in Pittsfield and the director of the cemetery, says the roads flood, especially in the upper area. He says when the roads ice over, it's even more difficult for cars to pass through. St. Joseph's Cemetery dates back to 1853. This used to be all farmland. It's now 225 acres and serves all 4 Catholic parishes in Pittsfield. St. Joseph Parish, Sacred Heart, and St. Mark's are all participating in the capital campaign with St. Charles. Robbie Brassard is the secretary at St. Charles.
I have heard from some parishioners that, yes, they have a very difficult time deciding whether they should go up or not because they're afraid to get stuck.
Especially in the wintertime, right?
That's correct.
What's it like in the winter there?
Awful.
Okay. Yeah.
Awful. The roads really need to be redone.
Bob Pothier is also a parishioner of St. Charles. His wife Joyce passed away in 2015.
For all of us who have family up there that are buried there, we tend to go quite a bit, and the road conditions are very bad. You know, there's a lot of repair needed, plus there's drainage problems, so sometimes you're running through large puddles and things are starting to fall apart. So it's well overdue.
Monsignor Shoshanovic says there's been a positive response in the first few weeks of the campaign.
It could become dangerous, you know, and it's a holy place, and we should be doing the best we can to, you know, preserve the cemetery for many generations to come.
The plan is to begin the restoration work in the new year. Reporting for Reel to Reel in Pittsfield, I'm Carolee McGrath.
And for more information on how you can help, we have a link at iobserve.org. Permanent deacons have been an integral part of the Diocese of Springfield since 1983. In the second of a 3-part series on the diaconate, Steve Kiltonick follows a Springfield deacon, Bob Farrell, as he ministers to parishioners at Our Lady of Mount Carmel Parish in Springfield's South End.
Bob Farrell grew up in Longmeadow and was one of 7 siblings.
I graduated from Longmeadow High School, attended Paris School of Art, and wound up teaching at Putnam High School. I teach graphic design, design and visual communications.
Bob and Diane married in 1975. They have a son, Brad. This year, the couple celebrated 43 years together.
I started thinking about the diaconate, I would say 2 years after I made my Cursillo weekend in 1997. About the same time that my brother John, who lives in Florida, was entering a diaconate formation program in the Diocese of Orlando. I had this friend, Rosemary Reardon, who used to tell me, Bob, I'm going to pray for you. I think you'd make a wonderful deacon. And I would say, oh, Rosemary, that's never going to happen.
For Bob, the diaconate journey has been a true partnership.
For me, it was a natural progression. We had made our Cursillo together. We had become involved in the church doing RCIA, and I had become a Eucharistic minister. So when he said he wanted to become a deacon, it just seemed very natural.
Deacons' wives are encouraged to participate in their husbands' formation activities, including attending the rigorous 2-night-a-week classes at the Elms.
I went to all the classes with him, which I really recommend. It was really enlightening. I'm glad I did it because I could see what he was going through.
Farrell's ordination took place in 2011. For Bob and Diane, the moment was a shared experience.
It was awesome.
Yeah.
It really was awesome. It was awesome. My brother John was able to vest me, which was a beautiful experience. Having Diane there. I had to get knee pads. My knees are bad. And I think 4 of us wore knee pads. We had to. That marble's awfully hard.
It was really amazing. I don't think I stopped smiling from the time I entered the church until the end of it.
Deacon Farrell's assigned parish is Our Lady of Mount Carmel. He says his full-time teaching job prohibits him from doing some ministries, but he's found many others to keep him busy.
I'm available when I can to preside at vigils or committal ceremonies, a couple of convalidations through the years. I do serve 2 masses a week, and I preach almost every single week, so homiletic preparation, certainly. We have a weekly Bible study. We do Lectio Divina, which is sacred reading, contemplative reading.
Each Thursday, Bob presides over adoration with benediction. Here, he leads a monthly group in a novena to St. Anthony. There are those special occasions when Bob performs the sacraments like weddings and baptisms. Once a month, Deacon Farrell serves as the facilitator of Holy Listening, a contemplative faith-based group. And on the first Sunday of the month, he serves meals with the Loaves and Fishes program at a local Springfield church.
You know, you're always in ministry as the ordained. We're not ordained. We're ordained at, as Father Savage would say, we're ordained at baptism to be disciples, to go out and preach and be the face of Christ to all you meet. And so a lot of my ministry is done right at school where I work.
As for what he finds most fulfilling as a deacon,
I love people, and I think that it's nice to engage with people. I've been told that I have a welcoming personality, so it's just being present to people. That's the special part of it.
Deacon Farrell relies on prayer to help get him through those difficult days. With God, anything is possible.
Prayer, and you have to put it in the hands of God. The Holy Spirit is there to guide you, so how could I not be confident? God is with me all the time.
For Real to Real, I'm Steve Kiltonick.
And next week, Steve will tell us about the ministry of Deacon Alberto Santiago Martinez and his mission to bring people back to church. And still to come on Real to Real, we'll continue our Eastern Europe pilgrimage, visiting the Shrine of Divine Mercy. And Steve Kiltonick will share the story of a Maryknoll priest who served as a military chaplain in Vietnam. These stories and more are still to come on Real to Real.
The Chalice of Salvation, your weekly spiritual connection. I'm Passionist Brother Terrence Scanlon, your Chalice host, inviting you to take time out of your busy days and join us Sunday morning. We welcome Father Lionel Bonneville, chaplain at the Veterans Hospital in Leeds, as our Mass presider as we celebrate the 32nd Sunday in Ordinary Time. The Chalice of Salvation, your spiritual connection, Sunday morning at 10 on 22 News WWLP, and coming up next on Albany's Fox 23 WXXA.
You are watching Real to Real, your window on the world around you. Here again is your Real to Real host, Sharon Roulier.
This past July, Catholic Communications led a pilgrimage to Eastern Europe. In part 3 of our series today, we find our pilgrims leaving Krakow to experience the miraculous wonders of the Divine Mercy Shrine, as well as the somber and sobering history of the Auschwitz death camps. Our very own Bishop Mitchell Rosansky was the spiritual leader on this trip, which was documented and produced by Father Gary Daly and Chief Videographer Bill Pekosha.
Today we come just outside the city of Kraków to this sanctuary of Divine Mercy in Łagiewnicki. We celebrated Mass in the chapel of the Sisters of Mercy. It's the same chapel that St. Faustina was buried, in which many came to venerate her relics. We come here to this place as a Diocese of Springfield for 2 reasons. One is that it unites us very closely with the National Shrine of Divine Mercy in Stockbridge, Massachusetts. But also there is a memorial plaque inside the chapel which denotes a member of our diocese, Maureen Daigen. She had suffered from lymphedema for decades and had undergone 10 operations, including a leg amputation. Maureen reported that while praying at Faustina's tomb, she heard a voice saying, "Ask for my help and I will help you." She did, and her constant pain stopped. 5 Boston area physicians stated that she was healed. They had no medical explanation as to why. Maureen's healing was declared miraculous by the Vatican in 1992. It paved the way for the beatification of Faustina Kowalska and eventually her canonization in April 2000, making her the first saint of the new millennium. The image of the Divine Mercy is revered by millions around the world. It depicts Jesus Christ as he appeared before St. Faustina in 1931. Sister Faustina died in 1938 at the age of 33, but her legacy lives on as she continues to intercede for so many. On August 17, 2002, Pope John Paul II consecrated the sanctuary's majestic 1,600 square foot brand new basilica. Every year, some 2 million pilgrims from all over the world visit the shrine. Today, we take a short bus ride to a place south of Kraków that will be embedded into the minds and hearts of our pilgrims. Auschwitz, the largest and arguably most notorious of all the Nazi death camps, opened in the spring of 1940. During the camp's construction, nearby factories were appropriated and all those living in the area were forcibly ejected from their homes, which were bulldozed by the Nazis. Once Hitler's final solution became official Nazi policy, Auschwitz was deemed an ideal death camp locale. Those entering its main gate were greeted with an infamous and ironic inscription, Arbeit macht frei, or work makes you free. By mid-1942, the majority of those being sent to Auschwitz were Jews. Upon arriving at the camp, detainees were examined by Nazi doctors. Those considered unfit for work, including young children, the elderly, pregnant women, and the infirm, were immediately ordered to take showers. However, the bathhouses to which they marched were disguised gas chambers. These unfortunate souls were never officially registered as Auschwitz inmates. For this reason, it is impossible to calculate the number of lives lost in the camp. However, according to some estimates, between 1.1 and 1.5 million people, the vast majority of them Jews, died at Auschwitz during its years of operation.
I didn't realize how much it would hit me emotionally, but it was very difficult. And to think that we could be so cruel to each other and really showed how evil man can be. But it also showed about the indomitable power of faith, because the Polish people, with all that they've been through throughout their history, they've been taken over by just about everybody at one point or another, and yet they're still very faithful.
2 prisoners of this camp became martyrs and canonized in the church. Edith Stein, known as Carmelite Sister Saint Benedicta of the Cross, canonized in 1998, and Franciscan Father Maximilian Maria Kolbe, canonized in 1981. Saint Kolbe gave his life in place of a prisoner by the name of Franciszek Gajowniczek, a man with a wife and children. Franciszek was blessed to be present with his family at Saint Kolbe's canonization. Auschwitz II located in the village of Birkenau, or Brzezinka, was constructed in 1941 on the order of Heinrich Himmler, commander of the Schutzstaffel, or commonly known as the SS. I'm standing on the railroad tracks that were constructed specifically for the purpose of bringing trainloads of people into this camp. Some survived, but over 6 million lost their lives in these camps and other concentration camps around the country. We come here today in prayer. We prayed that this evil to humanity would never ever happen again, anywhere around the world. In January 1945, as the Soviet army entered Krakow, the Germans ordered that Auschwitz be abandoned. As the Soviets entered Auschwitz, they found approximately 7,600 sick or emaciated detainees who had been left behind. The liberators also discovered mounds of corpses, hundreds of thousands of pieces of clothing.
The eyeglasses and the shoes, and then the artificial limbs, but then the children's clothes, those little children's shoes. And I think of those poor soldiers that went in and saw something like that. Well, they had to hold that memory. I will hold this memory for the rest of my life.
We conclude our trip with Mass at the Carmelite Monastery Chapel bordering the grounds of Auschwitz.
How did this all take place? We find that it could take place because of Satan, the father of all lies. They were told that they were going to be resettled. Even as they were going to their deaths, they were told they were going to the showers. It was lie after lie after lie. The lie of Auschwitz and of all the death camps was that those who were brought there were not looked upon with the eyes of God, but rather they were demonized. They were thought by others to be evil. And the truth was that each of those who were taken to their deaths are children of God.
We say our goodbye to the beautiful country of Poland with our final stop, Kalwaria Zebrzydowska, some 20 miles south of Krakow, for a celebration of Mass. Over 1 million pilgrims visit the shrine every year. 9-year-old Karol Wojtyła, after the death of his mother, was brought here by his father along with his older brother and knelt before the image of Our Lady. His father pointed to the image saying, "This will be your mother now." A beautiful thing to ponder as we depart Poland on our 5-hour journey to Vienna, Austria. Join us next week as we wrap up our pilgrimage journey with visits to the beautiful cities of Vienna and Prague.
And we look forward to that final installment. As we approach Veterans Day, we remember the sacrifices of military chaplains from all wars. Many of these brave men often risk their own lives for the sake of their band of brothers. The story of Navy Lieutenant Father Vincent Capodanno, who served during the Vietnam War, is one of courage, compassion, commitment, and faith. Steve Kiltonic has the story of the chaplain who was called and chosen.
Staten Island, New York City's southernmost borough, is probably best known for the ferry that passes the Statue of Liberty. Often referred to as the Lost Borough, it is the smallest and most suburban of the 5 boroughs. It's here where Rachel and Vincent Capodanno Sr. settled down to raise their 10 children. Vincent Robert Capodanno Jr., the youngest of the Capodanno clan, was born February 13, 1929 at the family home. The Capodannos, who attended St. Michael's Parish, were typical of the many Italian immigrant families who arrived here in the early 1900s. Brother John Blazer was a mission educator for the Maryknoll Fathers and Brothers.
Staten Island is a very, strong Catholic area. He grew up in a very strong Catholic Italian family. She was very, very religious. I'm sure they went to church regularly. They participated in all sorts of the parish programs.
A grammar school scrapbook Vincent kept reveals a strong sense of patriotism and love of community. At the age of 10, Vincent suffered a tremendous loss when his father died in an accident on his birthday. At Curtis Public High School, he was a class officer, member of the Biology Honor Society, and a counselor in the Catholic Youth Organization. But after his high school prom, Vincent told his mother some unexpected news.
She thought he was going to say,
you know, I think I'm in love, I'm going to get married. He woke her up and said, I think I'm going to be a priest.
After high school, Capodanno considered business or medicine as a career, but his strong faith was something he could not ignore. Every morning, Capodanno would take the Staten Island ferry to Fordham University, where he went to school. He would often read the Field Afar, today known as Maryknoll magazine. He was drawn to stories about Catholic priests ministering to people in faraway lands like Japan, China, and Korea, and thought maybe life as a Maryknoll missionary might be his calling.
In those days, Maryknoll was really the only road to be missionary, because we are the official Catholic Foreign Missionary Society. We were founded in 1911. And because we went to China, it was very exotic to go to China, and then it was rugged, which appealed to the ruggedness of the American male.
Located in Ossining, New York, not far from the Hudson River, the Maryknoll Missionary Seminary, with its sweeping upturned roof lines and green and mandarin red colors, reflected a Chinese motif. In 1949, against his family's objections, Vincent Capodanno entered the Junior Maryknoll Seminary. On June 14, 1958, the entire Capodanno family gathered at the Maryknoll Chapel, Mary Queen of Apostles, to see Vincent, along with 47 others, ordain a Maryknoll priest by Francis Cardinal Spellman, the Archbishop of New York. A day later, Capodanno received his assignment at the annual Departure Day ceremony, which included the ringing of the departure bell. Capodanno and several other priests boarded a ship for Taiwan, then called Formosa, to work with the Hakka-speaking Chinese in Miaoli, a remote region in the Western Mountains. In the village of Tunglo, Father Capodanno taught the Catholic faith to the youth, so they in turn could teach others. In 1961, his beloved mother Rachel died. After he returned to the United States, Father Vincent discovered that he was not returning to Taiwan, but was reassigned to teach at a private boarding school in Hong Kong. While in Hong Kong, Father Vincent petitioned Maryknoll Superior General John Comber to join the U.S. Navy Chaplain Corps and serve with the Marines in Vietnam. In December 1965, Father Capodanno received his commission as a lieutenant in the Navy Chaplain Corps. Father Capodanno arrived in Da Nang, South Vietnam in April of 1966 during Holy Week. Here he was assigned to the 1st Battalion, 7th Marines, 1st Marine Division, or 1-7. George Phillips was a corporal with the 5th Battalion, 5th Marines. He knew of Father Capodanno and spoke to him on several occasions. After 9 months, Father Capodanno had developed a reputation with the 1-7.
Father Capodanno, unlike any other chaplain I saw, before or since, went with them on these combat missions, exposed himself, just as the Marines did. He was always comforting the wounded for the Catholics, providing last rites, giving comfort to all faiths, whether they were wounded or dying.
The Marines considered Capodanno one of them and dubbed him the Grunt Padre, an affectionate reference to the Marines in the trenches.
Captain Murray, who was the company commander at the time, said he was kind of a rock star. You know, he was so different.
Phillips said Father Capodanno handed out St. Christopher medals to Marines before battle.
Even if we're in the middle of combat, it's like, you know, the old cone of silence came down, and it was like, you know, there was nothing flying around, nothing blowing up, nobody getting hurt. Once you met him, you never forgot him. I mean, his eyes and his whole demeanor it was like he was transformed or something.
Father Capodanno extended his stay in Vietnam another 6 months and was reassigned to the 3rd Battalion, 5th Marines as the only Catholic chaplain.
For this is the chalice of my blood of the New and Eternal Testament.
After Mass, Father Capodanno always had time to talk to the Marines and hear confessions. On September 4th, 1967, the 1st Battalion, 5th Marines, numbering 178, encountered a North Vietnamese Army regiment of 2,500.
All of a sudden, everything rained in on us. 50 cows, AR weapons, snipers, mortars.
In the battle that would ensue, called Operation Swift, 26 Marines were dead by mid-morning. He immediately hopped on a helicopter to get closer to the action. Saying, "I need to be where my Marines need me most," Capodanno dashed over the hill to help a radio operator, Steve Lovejoy, pulling him away from harm.
Lovejoy had lost his gas mask, so Father gave his gas mask to Lovejoy, and said, you keep it, you'll need it more.
During the firefight, Philip saw Father Capodanno going up and down the hill, dragging people to safety, praying over those who were dying, and comforting those who were injured.
About mid-afternoon, he picks up shrapnel, and he loses 2 fingers, and he gets wounded in the right arm. Doesn't slow him down.
2 Marines were killed trying to take out a machine gun. A third, Ray Horton, was badly injured, shot through the left shoulder. A Navy corpsman tried to help him but was also wounded. Capodanno ran through the field to help both who lay bleeding. To Horton, he said, "Stay calm, Marine. God is with us today."
Had just about reached the corpsman and the Marine, and it just laid down, put his body between the Marine and the corpsman and the machine gun, and took 26 shots in the back, and I instantly died.
53 other Marines involved in Operation Swift were killed and 104 wounded. A memorial service was held for the Navy chaplain, and thousands of Marines came to pay their respects.
They had to take 40 trucks full of people to go to the memorial. They hold about 25, 30 each to go, and that's unheard of. That's how much people loved them and respected them.
Capodanno was interred in the family plot in St. Peter's Cemetery on Staten Island. In 1969, Father Capodanno was posthumously awarded the Congressional Medal of Honor in recognition of his selfless sacrifice. After the war, reports kept filtering in from Marines who knew Capodanno and witnessed his faith and courage.
The anecdotal evidence that Father Capodanno was something special, it became voluminous, and there were even reports of miracles.
In 2003, Archbishop Edwin O'Brien said there was enough evidence to issue a cause for canonization. In 2005, the cause was approved, and a year later, a public decree of Servant of God was issued. In 2013, the Father Vincent Capodanno Guild was established to serve as the petitioner of the cause, with Philip's named chairman. And in 2018, final documents were handed over to the Vatican, which now has the say as to whether Father Capodanno will be declared venerable.
Could be a year, 18 months, could be never. But we think we have a very strong case, and so does the postulator. The most important thing for the Father Capodanno's cause is prayers. And so we ask anybody who might see this to pray that Father Capodanno is canonized.
At Maryknoll are items from Father Capodanno's life: his medals, letters, a cross, and his Bible. Father Capodanno once walked the great corridors of Maryknoll, and no doubt gazed upon the Hall of Martyrs, where the photos of fallen Maryknoll missionaries killed serving in foreign lands can be found. He never gave a passing thought that his photo would one day grace that same wall of heroes, and his name etched on the Vietnam Veterans Memorial in Washington, D.C., along with the 58,000 men who gave the ultimate sacrifice. For Real to Real, I'm Steve Kiltonick.
And we have more information on donating to further Father Capodanno's cause for sainthood at iobserve.org. And we wish all vets watching a happy Veterans Day. Please know how grateful our nation is for your service. And for this week, that's Real to Real. Thanks for spending part of your day with us. Remember, for more updates anytime, you can find information and news on the Catholic Church, both here in the Diocese of Springfield and around the world on our news and information site, iobserve.org. We are also on Facebook, updating daily while our reporters work on stories for Real to Real. Check us out and friend us at Catholic Communications. And join me right back here next week for another edition of Real to Real, your window on the world around you. See you then.
Real to Real is a production of the Catholic Communications Corporation, funded in part by the annual Catholic Appeal, and the support of you, our faithful viewers.